So I move on to social security. So no basic ceiling could be prescribed for provident fund employee coverage. So currently we all know that the salary ceiling for the purpose of PF is 15,000, but that is only optional. The employer wants to contribute, but as per the code, it appears that PF, but it can be done for linked insurance scheme, and it can be done for EF, but it appears going through the wordings given now, the salary ceiling cannot be fixed for provident fund, of course, but it will be definitely available for at least 1 year till such time the new set of schemes are framed. Let us hope that in the new scheme, the provision for salary ceiling for the purpose of PF will also be given. And employees, even though here they are drawing more than the ceiling prescribed, they are also to be counted to determine the number of employees for the applicability of the PF portion for that establishment. So for the applicability of PF Act for that establishment, we have to take into account those who are drawing less than the ceiling prescribed. Currently, it is 15,000, or even if they are drawing more than 15,000, those people are to be counted, right? So the number is 20 now. If there are 20 or more employees, then that for that establishment, the PF Act will be applicable, right? It is the same. So for determining whether the establishment has engaged 20 or more, we have to take into account those people who are drawing less than 15,000 as well as who are drawing more than 15,000. And with respect to apprentices, yes, the apprentices taken under the Apprentice Act, they are very clearly excluded, right? But there are also apprentices who are taken under the certified standing orders, and there are also apprentices who are taken as per the policies of the company. Currently, they are also not included for the purpose of PF, right? But in the code, it very clearly excludes only the apprentices who are engaged through under the Apprentices Act. So this gives rise a doubt whether the apprentices engaged under the standing orders or the apprentices engaged as per the policy of the company, they are to be considered as employees for the purpose of PF, right? That I think again the department has to clarify. It is a procedural point again, and condition for authorization to employers for maintaining PF accounts. We know, I think exemption is possible under section 17 currently, but for getting that exemption after the implementation of the code, at least 100 or more, at least 100 persons should be working in that establishment. Only those establishments can seek exemption, otherwise not. And this is with respect to ESI. Currently, we all know that under PF, the voluntary coverage is possible, but it is not so with respect to ESI, right? But ESI also, right? Of course, the threshold, the country, I think 1 or 2 states only currently it is 20, otherwise it is made 10 already. But after the implementation of the code, it will be 10 across. And even if there are less than 10, voluntary coverage is possible if the majority of the employees and the management, they are agreeing for voluntary coverage. If done voluntarily, subsequently they can also withdraw if they feel so. So that provision is also given. And with respect to plantations, again, they can cover their establishment under ESI, again on voluntary basis. It is not a mandate, on voluntary basis. But with respect to hazardous or life-threatening establishment, the central government is empowered to extend the provisions of the ESI, even if there are single employee, one employee, right? So we may have to, those who are working in hazardous or life-threatening establishment, you should watch out for notification if it is issued by the central government. If you are engaging less than 10 persons, then also I think the ESI can be made applicable to our establishment. And currently, yes, for mines, it is not applicable ESI, but if there are 10 or more employees employed after the implementation of the code, then automatically mines will also be covered under ESI Act. And presumption as to the accident while commutation between residence and place of employment, yes, it will be considered as employment injury. If it is not so, the otherwise is to be proved, right? I think naturally the proof, the burden of proof will lie on the employer, right? So, but generally, it will be considered as employment injury. If there is some accident is happening while the person is commuting from home to the factory or the establishment, or he is going back, right? But of course, there are subject to certain provisions there. If he is straight away is not going to the factory or straight away is not going back home, then I think that could differ again. Those are all technicalities. Case to case, you may have to decide on that. And even if an employee who is ought to be covered under ESI but not covered, or he is covered but the contributions in respect of that employee is not paid, then I think currently he is not entitled to get the benefits, medical benefits. But now ESI corporation, they can extend the facilities, benefits, right? And whatever amount incurred for extending the medical support, that can be claimed from the employer concerned. So that is one new provision coming up under ESI. And gratuity, again, since the definition for the term wage is getting revised, at least 50% of the monthly gross salary will be treated as salary for the purpose of gratuity, right? So we should be very, very careful, because the wages will have impact over many areas: PF, ESI, gratuity, minimum wages, payment of wages, bonus. It is very important actually. Then again, like we discussed for PF, here also, because the definition is same for the term employee, here also the apprentices engaged under the Apprentice Act, they are excluded, same definition. But what will happen to the other apprentices? That question remains here also with respect to gratuity. And in case of fixed term workers, since now it is permitted, even if they are engaged for less than 5 years, they will be eligible for payment of gratuity on a proportionate basis. And with respect to working journalists, the qualifying service is 3 years and not 5 years.